present a short a summary of the result. We are working on this topic. And first, we are using two basic models for population growth, trying to figure out the pattern of expanding population after the domestication of plants, or the starting of the Greek agrarian societies, or the transition between hunter-gatherer and agrarian societies. And doing that, we are hypothesizing that the growth or the expansion of this population are driven by two different possible models. One is the logistic model, is first exponential growth, and then the growth is stabilizing to a current capacity, or collapsing if the population overshoot the equilibrium point. Or the other alternative is a sort of a cooperation competition model. This is per capita growth rates, and this is population size. And you have this sort of population model, which is this one, and which you have accelerating population growth rate with population size, a positive feedback. Within population dynamic, we call it cooperation, the principle of cooperation, which is alley effects, knowing like alley effects in ecology. And then the population is approaching to the equilibrium or the carrying capacity by competition, negative feedback or competition processes. And we can have also an overshoot and a negative population growth and a return to this kind of cycle, collapse and boom and boost populations. This model are associated with cooperation, are always related when a sort of processes P, which are basically threats, are difficulties, are resources that are difficult to achieve, or they are not direct available to the population. You have to cooperate. You have to overwhelm this factor by population size. This is the side of the coin. Each time you have cooperation, you have a threat. Each time you have competition, you have basic resources needed to survive and reproduce and grow. Okay, this is the two basic models. The inspiration to looking at this kind of hypothesis, or the two different hypotheses in agrarian societies, come from the revolution, the Industrial Revolution. When we observe the demographic signature of the Industrial Revolution, we have this one. We have this sort of pattern. We have acceleration process between the 18th century to the middle, or the past middle of the 20th century. And then you have a decreasing growth rates with population size, which is the signature of competition that we are having now in the present societies. And then we are looking for this sort of relationship between population growth rate and population size, and human population size. And then we have two different, as I show, we have two different hypotheses or models: the logistic population growth rate growth hypothesis, and the cooperation competition possibility to expand and collapse, or expand and go to the equilibrium point. Under this model, this is a sort of population expansion or population growth from low population size to the current capacity. And under this kind of model, you have a sort of acceleration or hyper-exponential growth in this phase of the dynamics, and then approaching to the equilibrium. This is the data from Northern Europe from 16,000 to the present, and you see that the Industrial Revolution had the signature of cooperation and competition. This is the demographic pattern the expansion of the human population size related to the Industrial Revolution. And I like to see or to perceive this process as a sort of process in which human population are reaching by technology and innovation a lot of new resources that never could be achieved or never could be used without this sort of competition. This is the major innovation in the human society after the Industrial Revolution is able to produce the kind of acceleration population growth rate with population size. Each time we are more in the planet, we are doing better. This is the message or the signature of this process. Then what we do is we take in, I think there were 11 different data from 11 different geographic areas using the HPD data, and taking this is the date of the initiation of the domestication of plant and the different areas, and we slice the time series, trying to take this growth or expansion process in the different areas related with the science, the initiation of the domestication of plant, the initiation of the agrarian activities, to the first collapse or the first stabilization of the population. We are interested in trying to see how is this expansion or growth process in the different societies. And then this is an example of 6, but we are working with 11 data sets, and this is the main results. As we see, in many, I think 11, we have 6 or 7 areas in which just we have logistic growth pattern. So the expansion of the population is just a change in the equilibrium point to the right, and population is expanding like a logistic growth rates. The typical logistic growth rate is high growth rates in the beginning, and then the population is approaching to the equilibrium point. This is in Argentina, France, Great Britain. But in some other areas, we have a quite clear, and the model is quite better, the model from cooperation, competition than only competition model. Just is South Arizona, Chile, Atacama, Near East, and I think Titicaca also. In these 4 areas, there is a quite more clear signature of some cooperation processes at the initiation of the agrarian or the domestication of plant, unless there are we are talking about 200 or maybe more, between 200 and 500 years. This is between 10 and 20 generations of acceleration in the growth rates during the first phase of the agrarian the agrarian phase of the society, the initiation of the agriculture. But in others, we have not this signature. It's just a decreasing growth rates with population size, which is what expected when you just move the carrying capacity, adding new resources, as is the domestication of, which is the agriculture. And then this is the basic result that we are starting to do now, and we are trying to understand why. The interesting thing is this signature of the Industrial Revolution apparently can be replicated or observed in some other society, agrarian society, the prehistoric society, that have the same demographic signature when they have an expansion of population associated with a new access to resources, and probably to input of technological innovation and societal innovation that produce this kind of demographic pattern. But it's not always observed. In some other agrarian societies is just adding more resources, and the population is growing like a simple logistic growth model, which is more simple and more simple, basically. And that's all. That's the preliminary result and the idea of this project we are going in the Eco 3000 CAC.